What's up everyone, I'm Dan, and today let's take a look at Capcom's latest entry in the Resident Evil franchise, and this time it makes its way to the Nintendo Switch 2. If you're new here, make sure you like and subscribe to stay up to date with more reviews like these, and with all that said, let's get into this. Resident Evil Requiem is the 9th mainline entry in the series and lands on the Nintendo Switch 2 in a form that honestly surprised me. Requiem puts you in control of two characters throughout its campaign, newcomer Grace Ashcroft and longtime fan favourite Leon S. Kennedy. The constant switching between the two is one of the smartest decisions Capcom has made here. It keeps the pacing fresh, the tone varied, and most importantly, it finally allows the series to embrace both survival horror and action in a perfect balance. Grace's sections are where the horror really sinks its teeth in. She's an FBI analyst, not a seasoned monster hunter, pun intended, and you feel that immediately. These moments are tense, oppressive, and often genuinely uncomfortable in the best way possible. Ammo is scarce, resources are limited, and danger is always lurking in the shadows. You're not helpless, but you're rarely comfortable either. Sometimes the smartest move isn't to fight at all, but to avoid, hide, and slip past whatever nightmare is roaming the corridors. As I call them, the stalker enemies are especially terrifying here, constantly keeping you on edge and forcing you to rethink routes you thought were safe moments earlier. Leon's chapters, by contrast, are pure chaos in the best way. This isn't his first outbreak and it shows. His sections lean far more into action with visceral combat that feels weighty, punchy, and incredibly satisfying. Every zombie and monstrosity you put down feels earned, and more than once I caught myself grinning after particularly brutal encounters. While these segments are less overtly scary, they're not completely devoid of horror. There are still moments that made me jump, reminding you that this is still very much Resident Evil. That said, I felt like an unstoppable force. I was Leon F. Kennedy and I loved every moment of it. I'll leave it to your imagination to figure out what the F stands for. What really impressed me is how seamlessly the game shifts between these two tones. It never feels jarring. Instead, it feels like a deliberate attempt to strike the perfect balance between classic survival horror and modern action-focused design. In many ways, Requiem feels like a melting pot of the series' greatest hits, taking cues from the original games Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, and blending them into something cohesive. For me, this finally feels like the sweet spot Capcom has been chasing for years. Controls on the Switch 2 are spot on. Everything feels responsive and intuitive, whether you're aiming in the heat of combat or carefully creeping through dimly lit hallways. HD Rumble also feels absolutely perfect here. You can play both characters in either first person or third person view, and while the game nudges you towards certain perspectives for each, the freedom to choose is welcome. I personally stuck with third person for the entire experience, as that's how I prefer to play, but never felt disadvantaged. Performance is another huge win. The Switch 2 version runs remarkably well, even in handheld mode. The game feels smooth, responsive, and polished from start to finish. Yes, there are a few dips in frame rate in some busier sections, but nothing that ever impacted gameplay or immersion in a meaningful way. Considering the scale and visual fidelity on display, it was really genuinely impressive. Visually, Requiem nails atmosphere. Environments are detailed, oppressive, and dripping with that unmistakable Resident Evil vibe. The lighting does a lot of heavy lifting, especially during Grace's sections. Audio design too deserves equal praise. The soundtrack knows exactly where to fade into airy ambience and when to crank things up during action-heavy moments. Combined with solid voice acting, it all works together to keep you locked in from beginning to end. Hearing zombies talking as well always felt unnerving and haunting. All that said, the game isn't without its flaws. There are a few sections where fetch quest style objectives rear their head, and while this is very much a Resident Evil staple, it did start to feel tiresome at times. The game does streamline these sections to avoid excessive backtracking, but I still found myself rolling my eyes more than once. They're not awful, but they could have been handled with a bit more finesse, I felt. Despite these minor frustrations, and really that's just me nitpicking, I was hooked from start to finish. Requiem constantly pushes you forward, always dangling the next story beat, set piece, or terrifying encounter just out of reach. The alternating perspectives, evolving mechanics, and expertly paced escalation kept me fully engaged throughout the entire campaign. The ending too, chef's kiss. In the end, Resident Evil Requiem feels like a confident statement from Capcom. It's a game that understands its legacy and finally embraces what makes the series special. On Nintendo Switch 2, it plays beautifully, feels fantastic, and delivers one of the most well-balanced Resident Evil experiences to date. If you can't tell, I think this game is horror perfection and one that every fan needs to have in their collection. Resident Evil Requiem is out now on the Nintendo eShop, priced at $64.99 in the UK and $69.99 in the US. Have you played it yet? And what do you think about the game? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Big thanks to you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed the review. Don't forget to hit that like button as it helps the channel. And until next time.
Felt that one, huh? Up on my legs.